we welcome in our 1320 Kings instead of James. I think I don't know if you like this light on you, but you could turn around and because
it's dark.
The lights under you are motion censored. So if you just turn around, you could turn the lights on, or you could keep the spotlight on you. It's totally up to you. You look like Kyle Madsen did the other day. It's fantastic.
I feel glorious. I don't know.
You do.
It's making me glow.
I like it. I like it. But Javier brought up the HB for John Collins. I just don't like the John Collins idea. You were still getting situated, and Javier was asking about making a trade before the trade deadline, and brought up Harrison Barnes. I'm kind of at the point, James, and I think we've talked about this a couple of times, where I'm comfortable riding with Harrison Barnes, and hopefully he's enjoying this experience. He sees that this franchise is moving in a positive direction, and he can be a part of it for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, you still have the option to approach Harrison Barnes and work out an extension. So you can do that during the season until he becomes a free agent. You can do it. So he's in a very unique situation when it comes to his contract status. But if I'm the Kings, like you're over the last 14 games, you're 7-7, right? You've played 500 ball, which against some really tough competition, including, a huge 6-game road trip, a 2-game road trip that was very difficult where you figured out things. And, I don't know. For me, this team just keeps telling us very clearly they're one piece away. And whether that's a big piece or whether that's like one or two smaller pieces, it still means that they're one piece away from being someone that you feel comfortable saying they're a 4, 5, 6, 7. And, if you're the Kings, you need to be a 6 or better, because there's a good chance the Golden State Warriors are going to be one of those bottom teams looking to jump up out of, the play-in and try to get into the top end of the tournament. And you got to be above that bottom section where you're in the play-in.
So the thing about that, James, and what's going on, James? How you doing?
It's happening.
Yeah. The thing about that is, I think if you're looking to make that move to solidify yourself as a 4, 5, 6, you're going to have some interesting decisions to make. Like there's got to be a guy out there that essentially is better than Harrison Barnes. Like that is the trade chip that you have, in my opinion. I know you got expiring money and things of that nature, Lynn and Terrence Davis and all this other stuff. I don't know how appealing Rashawn Holmes is to a lot of people. I think when you're talking about making a move to get somebody in here that'll change your fortunes, I think it starts with Harrison Barnes being part of the deal. And number one, can you find somebody that is better than Harrison Barnes to trade with? Number two, do you want to upset the apple cart? I don't know the answer either way. Like it's a tough decision to make if you want to make that type of big signing to kind of solidify yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. Like, you're not going to get something for nothing. And even if you go back to the Harrison Barnes deal when they originally got him, it's just so few and far between where you find a team that's literally ready just to get off of some salary and you can give up what they gave up. What was that? Justin Jackson and Zebo, right? For Harrison Barnes. Like, if there's one of those deals out there, the Kings should have already made it. But I don't think there is. And what you're hoping is that there's going to be more teams that fall out of the race. And we're starting to see like sort of the rumor mill churn with, is Toronto going to be a seller? Is Charlotte going to be a seller? Is Washington going to be a seller? Where are these teams at? And at what point do they pull the plug? Is Utah going to be a seller? Well, the honest answer is probably all 4 of those teams are going to be sellers, because this is an epic game of cat and mouse, but everyone realistically is going to be playing for Victor Wembanyama at some point because he's just too good, and you're going to have to take that plunge. But if I'm the Kings, I don't know if the dilemma is even Harrison Barnes at this point, because I think Harrison Barnes, he does mean so much to what you're trying to do, right? And you're hoping that you can stick around with him long term, knowing that there's a possibility that you can't. But the real question, we talked about this on the podcast on, I think it was Monday, like, where are you at with Keegan Murray? And does he become part of the discussion? Because that might be your chip that you have, because you're tied up with all your first round picks. So
I just don't know how you do that again.
I agree with you.
I feel like you maybe you could do that once, and you did it with Tyrese, and hey, it's worked out for everyone. Man, I think it's tough to do that again.
Well, and I'm not advocating for that. I'm
No, I
just saying
understand.
that, like, when you call teams, that's what they're going to say. You call the Utah Jazz and say, "Is Lowry Markkanen available?" And they will say, "Maybe, but it's going to cost you X, Y, and Z." And one of the first things going to be put on the table is, we would like to have Keegan Murray.
Especially for a team that's looking to rebuild, hoping they
Yeah.
hit the lottery. You've got a player.
Well, that, and you're basically offering up a top 4 pick from
Right.
the previous draft, and
Right.
I mean that's a lot to offer. And I'm not saying the Kings shouldn't trade Keegan. What I'm saying is that that's going to be the offer. Those are going to be the things that are discussed, that teams are going to come after the Kings with. It's going to be their ask. And I mean, the other option is you go to Atlanta and you try to work out something where you get your first round picks back. And so whether that means you give up a 25, which would free up your 2023 and your 2027, or you give them a 24 and that would free up your 26 and your 28. If you got 2 first round picks, all of a sudden you become a contender for one of these players, whether it's OG Anunoby, if he becomes available, or it's Lauri Markkanen. There's going to be someone that becomes available that you could go and pursue. Or the other option is that you go add some smaller pieces. You see what's happening with Charlotte. Kelly Oubre's out now 6 to 8 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks. Will they talk about Mason Plumlee? Will they talk about a PJ Washington? Those are more like you're going to give up expiring contracts and a couple of second round picks. Most likely they'll ask for a first, but they're not going to get a first. So I think that the Kings are in a position where you clearly know what your holes are, and you need to go figure out a way to put some spackling over them and fix it. And until they do that, they're going to keep running into this situation that they're in, like tonight, where this is the 7th time this season where they've got to 4 games over 500. And the previous 6 times they lost the next game. They haven't been 5 games over 500 since 2006. It's, we talk about Malik Monk saying that, Kevin Huerter was afraid of 30. Well, the Kings are clearly afraid of 5. I mean, like, get over it, like, move past it. At some point you got to take that step, because you can't get to 6 or 7 games over 500 until you get to 5. It's the way that works.
You know who was afraid of 5 last night? The Utah Jazz.
Yeah, man. To your point though, and I understand what Damian is saying about you can't go to that trading your first round pick again. I think, and I'm not advocating either, but I'm just saying I think for Lauri Markkanen, no, you can't do that. For Pascal Siakam, now we can have a conversation, because you're talking about a multiple-time All-Star. You're talking about a guy that's proven in this league to produce at a high level. And if you're adding a guy like that to the fold, then we can have some internal discussions. You know what I mean? And say that's what we want to do.
But what are we talking about, though? Like, you talk about Pascal Siakam. I think Pascal Siakam is phenomenal. Are we talking about the Kings going to the NBA Finals this season? Is that the discussion we're having? Because I think the question, I'm serious, because I think the question you have to ask yourself is Siakam next year getting you further than Keegan Murray next year would, and whatever else you're giving up, because it's not like it's Keegan for Pascal Siakam.
I think, James, and you can tell me what you think. I think if you get Pascal Siakam, especially the way this West is shaping out, you have a chance to get to the NBA Finals. With this group, yes. Keegan, maybe you still do. I said that a couple weeks ago. Like, I was like, it's not inconceivable.
Yes.
It's not inconceivable. And that's why, it's probably why, like, it would take more than Pascal Siakam for me to move on from Keegan Murray. It would just really take a lot. But talking about James's point, like, that's something that you at least have to discuss if you're talking about making a move, because you just don't have a lot of trade chips.
Yeah. Okay. So I just can't talk about NBA Finals. Like, we're literally talking about the Sacramento Kings. They haven't made the playoffs in 16 consecutive seasons. And what we're looking at is, I'll just give this as an example. Early in the season,
Suns went 9.
There we go. Yeah.
Just saying.
But early in the season, we saw this team, they couldn't figure out how to win on the second night of a back-to-back, right? Every single time they faced the second night of a back-to-back, they got kicked around. All of a sudden, they're figuring out how to win on the second night of a back-to-back, right? So the
3
NBA,
in a row.
yeah,
I believe the number's 3 in a row.
the NBA has this really basic process of improvement, and every once in a while you can jump ahead of the line, but it doesn't usually work that way. And so when you get to the playoffs and you're learning the playoffs for the first time, there's so much that goes into a playoff game that teams like the Kings, who just had their lone ESPN game taken away from them, right? This team has never sat for a 4-minute playoff timeout. They don't know what that feels like. They don't. And like, there's a nervous energy that happens. There's all these things that happen. And, you're going up against teams that are playing 20 national television games a season, and you've got like 3 on NBA TV. And so there's this learning curve that happens where usually you get to the first round and you get beat up pretty bad. You might win a game and it's exciting and it's fun, but you take something from that and you come back the next year and you're better. We've heard Jason Tatum talk about it. He now thinks he knows what it takes to win an NBA championship. Like, okay, the other team does too. So, because you're going to face a team that's likely been there before as well. And you got to figure out if you know more about what it takes to win an NBA championship than they do. But either way, just getting there is like, it's so far-fetched for the Kings at this point, because they haven't, like, that's learning. That's going from being a baby in a crib to being an Olympic sprinter, basically, when you're 18 months old. Like, it just doesn't happen. And so I hope that the Kings can take a huge step forward. But this team isn't one player away from being like a title contender. What they are is they're one move away from being a really, really strong 4, 5, 6 team in the Western Conference, with the potential for next year to be a 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next year, maybe we're talking about someone who could compete for something bigger. But that's why I keep going back to a guy like Lauri Markkanen, who's 25 years old, fits exactly the age arc of this team, who's averaging 23.5 points, 8+ rebounds, a couple of assists. He can do just about everything. He's not a great defender, but a perfect fit next to Sabonis. And he's under contract this year, the next year, the year after that, at like 16, 17, and 18. It's just like the Sabonis contract all over again.
Lauri Markkanen can go to hell, straight to hell. I don't know why. I don't know what the Kings ever did to him, but he is just he is incredible.
Lauri Bird, and it's just not the Kings. In his last 5 games, he's averaging 30.8 rebounds, 50% from the field, 97% from the free throw line.
Goodness gracious, man. We'll come back. We'll talk about last night's game. We'll talk about that performance from De'Aaron Fox. We'll talk about the bench. We'll talk about Davion and KZ Okpala. We'll talk about Domantas Sabonis and Mike Brown. We'll do all of that with James Ham here as D'Lo and KC continue on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. We'll go to 28 here too. So we'll come back. We'll go 28.
Right back, guys.
Yep. How's it going, man?
Good. A little bit of a headache rolling in. So I'm like,
oh,
I'm all right.
Oh, those are tough.
Yeah. All the wind. I'm sure that
is it windy out? Like, I keep looking like, where's the rain? I don't see any rain.
There's no rain, but it's crazy windy.
Is it?
Even up at my house, it's super crazy. Yeah.
Anything noteworthy? Oh, they didn't shoot around today. What am I thinking?
No, they didn't shoot. No.
I don't like. I was thinking all morning you were at shoot around, and it just now this second dawned on me they didn't have shoot around. They played last night.
Yeah.
Dumbass.
GL Lobo. I don't know who this is, but this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Cam Reddish can't get on the floor for the last 2 teams he was with. Like, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, like, he's got to be, if you're going to go trade for a player, he's got to be remarkably better than KZ Okpala. And you could say defensively, sure. I mean, offensively, sure, but defensively, I don't know. And Mo Bamba, again, people bring up Mo Bamba. Like, Mo Bamba can't get minutes in front of Bol. Like, Mo Bamba's got
Go get Bol then.
Mo Bamba. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot. And Mo Bamba's 24, and I get it, and he's got potential, but you got to be a player that can play on a bad team. If you can only play 19 minutes a game, what are you going to do on a good team? Sometimes that works, but most of the time, it doesn't. Cliff, what do I think about the Kings having the easiest strength of schedule remaining? I think that tells you everything about their first 40 games of the season, if that makes sense. Like, it's good. But once they get through this stretch here of like 7 games, I don't know that their strength of schedule will be the easiest anymore. So you have to take care of it right now. We should probably save some of this content for the air.
It's fine.
We're going to talk about football?
We repeat ourselves all of the time. We've kind of moved past it.
Yeah.
I mean, is this something you want to talk about?
Well, I just know like I said something a few months ago that people like took offense to. When it came to football, I told people that I would never allow my sons to ever put on a helmet, and people freaked out, even in the chatty house. Like, and that's why it's the reason what we're seeing right now. Yeah. Like, it's the freak accident injury that, and this isn't the first time that something like this has happened. This whole outrage is the first time. I mean,
yeah, you're right. It's not new outrage. It's just the latest outrage. But I'm with you. If I had kids, they wouldn't play. Kenny and I had a lengthy discussion about this. Like they didn't let, they're not letting Reese play football. They're not even letting him play flag football.
It's really hard because you get to the high school level, and in order to be cool, it's still the case. You still have to be a football player. Like during the first 2 months of the school year, 3 months of the school year, you're either cool or you're not. And it's based on whether you're playing on Friday nights.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't have obviously those decisions to make, but
yeah,
I just wouldn't do it.
Well, I mean, like Buffalo, they had a tight end in 2008, Everett, that got hit on the field and snapped a spinal cord. And like major spinal cord injury on the field. I mean, we're talking about the same like basic situations, like life or death situation for that guy. So
that's what I was afraid happened. That on Monday, and then they showed the replay. I was like, that doesn't add up. I was like, what the hell is going on here? Hang on, Casey. We can continue this discussion. Well, obviously, James Ham is here. We'll talk plenty about the Sacramento Kings. They're back on the floor tonight at the Golden One Center. I think kicking off a 5-game homestand with the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Second night of a back-to-back. Second time that they've played Atlanta on the second night of a back-to-back. By the way, James mentioned that the team having struggles figuring out how to win on the second night of a back-to-back, and have figured it out since. They lost their first 2. They won their last 3. Their record at this point in back-to-backs is 3-2 with tonight's approaching. But we were talking about football a moment ago during the commercial break. And, obviously what happened on Monday is still at the forefront of so many people's mind. Was there, James, we've had discussions in the past, and Kenny mentioned this yesterday regarding his son, Reese, that Reese is not playing football. My son's not playing football. You just said the same thing. Like you wouldn't allow your sons to play football.
Yeah. My oldest, 6'4", 165 pounds, fastest kid that you'll ever see. He was a soccer player for years and years. Like 4'5", 40, maybe a little better than that. And like, we didn't even consider letting him go out. And I'm surprised he wasn't like recruited heavily by the football players, big, strong soccer player that knows how to run. There's just something to it. Like I played high school football, and I still have injuries from high school football, and you just get beat up, and that's before we even knew what we knew about the concussions. And that's always my concern, the concussion thing. This injury here with Hamlin, right? Yeah, it was such a freak situation. I think what we'll probably learn is that he got hit between, like, right on the heart, between heartbeats, and it stopped his heart, like, right then. And it's something that happens, like, to be honest, more often in Little League. It, young kids who don't know how to take a hit, to get hit by a pitch, they'll open up and they'll get hit right in the heart, and it can stop your heart if it hits just the right spot at the right time. And
now I'm not letting my kids play baseball.
yeah, so
Jesus.
but football is an inherently violent sport, and I love football. I love watching football. I'm just, I don't
It's
want my
hard.
kids doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's same with you, Ham. I mean, I know Reese had talked maybe this past fall, because of a couple of his friends were playing flag football. And I said, I'm not even going to give you that taste. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even going to give you that taste.
Gateway drug. That flag football is a gateway drug.
It's a great sport. I was a starting wide receiver in flag football. I played high school football. I loved it. I showed up to practice every single day. But then you get to the end and you're like, man, there's nowhere else to play football after this. Like, there's like so few leagues out there of even flag football where adult men are playing flag football or women are playing flag football. It's not like softball where you can play softball until you're in your 80s. There's old man leagues out there that let you play until you can't play no more.
I will.
Yeah. And so, but football is one of those sports that when you're done, like you're going to pay the price for it. It doesn't matter. Like, one of my son's buddy's little brother blew out his knee in the first game for Bear River this year, torn ACL. Like, knee will never be the same. Yeah.
That's tough. My godson's dealing with a torn ACL, MCL that he's like a year into his comeback here at this point, trying to
I
get
saw him the other day, though. Shout out to House Party with a little windmill dunk.
Yeah, I mean, he can get up. He's explosive. Like he's a good ball player. He's lost the season, but he's staying focused in school, man. But it's hard. That was on the basketball floor. The one game we were at every game leading into that one, but missed that one, and he tore his knee up. Man, it's hard. Sports are hard. Sports are really hard for young guys, but. Yeah, it's been certainly a weird week, and this was part of our conversation, and we'll get back to the Kings, but this is part of our conversation yesterday where you just kept saying, I love football. I love football. I love the sport of football. And I had like the realization I don't. Yeah. I don't love the game anymore. I don't love what it is.
It probably lost a lot of fans on Monday night. I mean, it was
like
so
they've
dramatic.
lost me for a while, but man, that sitting through, being unable to turn away from what happened on Monday wasn't really difficult.
Like, we couldn't turn the channel. Like, we just sat there the whole time because you're worried that they're going to come out with some announcement.
You're wondering what the hell you just watched.
Yeah, I mean, it was just absolutely tragic to watch something like that happen. And yeah, it took all of the luster out of the weekend and everything. I mean, just really a bummer of a night.
Yeah.
As we attempt to segue, any truth to Deuce Mason's claim that you wore a leather helmet when you played in high school? I just needed I needed a transition, and Deuce provided it.
Yeah, no, I played for a really good high school. Deuce Mason. I played for Nevada Union during their heyday.
Oh, that's a flex.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is kind of that's strong.
Yeah, so strong. Yeah, we were pretty good.
Deuce,
on the other hand,
I think, is a Del Campo grad.
Yeah,
I believe the most famous Del Campo grad, whatever. Matt Barnes close second.
Yeah, Deuce then Matt Barnes.
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
I watched Matt
wasn't
Barnes.
Dusty? Where was Dusty? Wasn't Dusty Baker?
Well, I thought Dusty went to El Camino. He didn't go to El Camino.
Derek Lee went to El Camino.
Derek Lee went to El Camino.
And Greg Vaughn went to Kennedy, right?
Yeah, poor guy.
Okay, here we go. All right. So no leather helmet for James.
No.
But the Jazz needed a helmet for De'Aaron Fox last night.
He tried. I ain't mad at it.
Start getting scorecards for my attempt to transition. Can you rank that fourth quarter performance from De'Aaron Fox last night? You've seen De'Aaron Fox's entire career. That has to be up there.
I think so too. Like, when I watched that game, and it goes back to the previous game with Utah. Like, the defense wasn't great, but at the same time, that was just two really good teams going at it. That's what it felt like. It felt like playoff basketball. It felt like this is what the Kings are trying to build towards. We talked about it early in the season. You got to learn how to win. Well, Kings have won 3 of the last 4 games by a total of 4 points.
It's crazy.
I mean, they just keep going in there and battling and coming up with wins. And I think maybe more than anything else, what we're learning right now is that De'Aaron Fox is one of the best closers in the NBA. And it's something that if you can have that in your back pocket, then you know that you're going to be okay as long as you keep the score close through 3 quarters. And what we're seeing from Domantas Sabonis, which is just this epic consistency, what he is doing on a night in and night out basis, where he's just carrying this team, like physically, mentally, just carrying them through game after game, and then allowing other players to be great in their own right. But if you can get Fox to become this, I want to see more in the first quarter. Some of the reason why the first
that one
quarter
point
starts,
didn't do it for you.
Yeah, not great, Bob. But then that's the second quarter too. Like, he was in there while the first 3.5 minutes of the second quarter, when it was him and the bench, and you instantly saw that, like, without Sabonis is one thing, but without all those shooters, Fox is mortal. And that was just some of the worst basketball I've ever seen. I mean, the 4 turnovers, 2 points over 3, and I think 3:12 of the quarter, and they just gave their lead right back. So I need to see consistency throughout the game where Fox is always a threat. But does that really matter? I mean, in baseball, you have a closer who's sitting over there who might be able to get 3 outs, who might be able to get 6 outs. And that means that your team is going to be really good. All you got to do is get to the 8th inning and then hand it over. I think that could be where the Kings are heading, where, Fox is going to have to score and do things throughout the game, play defense and set up his teammates and score 10, 12 points early in the game. But when it comes to the fourth quarter, you give him the ball and you say, all right, let's see what you got.
The performance last night was so amazing to see him close out that game that way and play the way he did in the fourth quarter. But it also is maddening, right? Because you see the way he played in Memphis. And once again, he didn't play bad in Memphis, but he didn't put his fingerprints on that game at all, in my opinion. And we see that so often from De'Aaron, where you see a game like Memphis, and then you see a game like last night in Utah. And it's like, why can't we get Utah almost every night? He's the one that said it, and I agree with him 100%. I can get any shot I want to. Last night, wherever he wanted to get on the court, he could do it. And it's always frustrating because I think we all see the talent that he has. It's like, man, why don't you just put that on display all 35 minutes that you're playing every single night? And some nights he's okay with just kind of playing the background role.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that there are a lot of players in the league that you feel that the whole time. Like, every once in a while, there's a player that you feel like from open to close that they're there and providing something. But, the way Fox plays, with the speed he plays at, the pace he plays at, it's really difficult to keep consistently. Like, it's one thing if you're a shooter and you're always shooting. I mean, you need to get open and, but like, as far as like the expenditure of energy on offense is different than when you're a point guard who does what he does. And I think there are games where he has to save up for the fourth quarter. And, I think he was ready not only for the fourth quarter, but he was ready if there was overtime. He was ready to keep going. And just the way that he's been able to like become so clutch. I mean, again, what is he shooting? Like we saw the stat last night, like 62% in the clutch. And last time I saw the stat, he was at 57 and the next best guy was at 47% in the clutch. And now he's in the 60s. Like, what he's doing. And the NBA has this award this year, Mr. Clutch, right? Like, that should very much play a part in the decision whether or not he's an all-star. And I also think this stretch of games right here will decide whether he's an all-star this year.
Damian, real quick, what I want from De'Aaron Fox, and maybe we already get that because we're people who follow the Kings or Kings fans, and, we're on this side of it. But I want to get to the point. Damian, what I say? We're sitting there watching the Warriors game and the Kings are down 12. Oof, Steph is out. Got to win here. Da-da-da-da. Jokic is out. Ooh, Jokic is out. You got to win here. You got to da-da-da. Dame is out. Ooh, you got to take advantage of this time. I want other people.
The same thing during the Wizards game, too, and it didn't work.
Didn't work at all.
18-point lead to 12. What happened?
Damian was like, I don't think they can give up any more points in this.
That's not true.
But I want other teams. I want Fox's fingerprints all over these games to be when people are playing the Kings and Sabonis too. But when Fox takes a breather, Fox is out. Got to take advantage of these minutes when Fox is out, because when he comes back in, it's a tall task.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the deal though. Like Sabonis is a top 10 NBA player right now. I don't think that's even arguable. He's number 3 in the league in win shares, behind like I don't know, Jokic and Luka Doncic. It's those 3 as in win shares. Like, he is so incredibly impactful, and if you can get 2 guys that are like that, even if they're different in what they do and how they do it and when they do it during a game, then you become really, really difficult. And then when you add all these other pieces, your Malik Monks, your Kevin Huerters, your Harrison Barnes, your Keegan Murrays, and you're starting to get a team rolling on all cylinders. Like this team has the potential to be really dangerous and a tough out. Like if you're going up against the Kings and you have to game plan how to stop them in a 7-game series, they're not going to be fun to figure out, because there's going to be at least 1 or 2 games where they don't miss and then you're done. There's nothing you can do. When this team doesn't miss, they're almost unbeatable. And, it doesn't matter how many points you're going to put up on them. If Herter is hitting 7 threes and Monk's coming off the bench giving you 15 or 18, and then you're getting, the normal out of your other guys, like this is going to be a team that no one wants to play. And I think right now they're kind of sneaking under the radar, but getting that 2-man that's unstoppable makes everything for everyone else much, much easier.
D-Lo KC, James Ham here on KIFM West Sacramento 98.5 FM, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320, driven by Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge, always live on the free Odyssey app. You can watch the show on twitch.tv/ESPN 1320, youtube.com/ESPN 1320. Is this the most confident you've seen De'Aaron Fox play?
I mean, certainly, I think the first part of the I think the first part of the
there's a bunch of children here in the
season.
chatty house. Kenny and Soren are shying kids who think they're funny,
messing with you.
I'm always confused as to who's get the ball at the start of the 4th quarter now. I got to talk to Katie about this. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry. Everyone's a comedian.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't think I know. Oh, well, okay. So the team who gets a tip,
Look, now we need him.
Whoever opens
now
second,
look at this. What a turn of events it's been.
Yeah, whoever gets the second quarter gets the ball, right?
Look at what you guys have done.
Oh no.
Soren's about to get a timeout.
Soren, this is on you. This is on you.
On you. Confidence. De'Aaron Fox. Is this the most confident you've ever seen him?
I think early in the season, yes. I think he went through a lull where he kind of lost his confidence a little bit, where he just didn't look the same. But right now, I think he's back, and I also think he sees what I see, like as far as the next 10 games. Like this is, if you want to be an all-star, you have to be an all-star right now. You got to be an all-star today. You got to go in against a team that you've torched your entire career in the Atlanta Hawks. Like his first triple-double, maybe only triple-double in his career, came against Trae Young. You need to come out and look like that player tonight. But then again, when you got the Lakers, and this whole string of games here, this is where you define that you're an all-star, that your team can't just get to 5 games over 500, but might be able to get to 8 games over 500 or 10 games over 500 right now. And if you can do that, you're an all-star.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think right now he is an all-star. No caveats, no, I don't know. I think if you selected the top 24 players, 12 players in each conference, I think he should be in there 100%. I mean, and then you've got situations where people are, injured and may not show up, maybe selected but can't play, all this other stuff. De'Aaron Fox is playing like one of the top 24 players in the league today.
Yeah, and he's doing something that no one else can do right now. He's become this elite player in the 4th quarter, and he's better than everyone else at doing it. Mm-hmm. And so you got to look at that as one of the ingredients. Guys averaging almost 24 points and 6 assists a game. He's been phenomenal for most of the season. He's leading his team. His team is better than it's been in, a decade and a half right now. And it's just whether or not you can sustain it. And again, that's something that we're still going to question. Like, can he sustain it for 82? Can he sustain it for 70? We have seen the lull already, but can he keep it going from here on out?
Is it fair to point out that lull occurred right before he missed time with
Yeah,
I don't remember what it was.
a foot injury. Sore foot.
So that he was playing through, and it kind of got to the point where, all right, kid, can't play through this anymore. Let's try to get you a couple of days rest. I think he missed 2 games and came back, and the question was, what version of De'Aaron Fox are we going to get? And I'm comfortable in saying I think we've gotten that answer.
Well, I don't see. Here's the problem. This is why being transparent on an injury report actually matters. Because if he had sore feet and was probable with sore feet for 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, that's one thing. But, here we have this situation with Domantas Sabonis, who literally has a broken thumb. We all know he has a broken thumb. He's no longer on the injury report. So clearly the thumb is healed. But it's not. And so, what are we doing here? Keegan Murray has his hand taped up. He's going to have his hand taped up for a month.
Yeah. Does he have the same injury that Domas has?
I'm going to guess that he didn't do the same. Okay, so we've talked about this, sort of the bone breaking off, the avulsion fracture,
yes, in great
right?
detail.
Yes. But see, this is why that conversation matters, because you can tear that tendon, or the ligament, you can tear the ligament, or you can sprain the ligament. And a lot of times it can be worse than if you have the avulsion fracture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to guess that there's something like that in there. But again, that's speculation. That's off of him not being able to tell us what's going on, but telling us he's going to have his thumb taped up in this position for the next month or so.
Mhm.
So again, if we had transparency, to get back to De'Aaron Fox, it said, hey, he's dealing with some foot issues. Then we could say, hey, look, that's that 8-game stretch. We're just going to kind of crumple up and say he was fighting through it. I know there was a point where I saw him limping around into the locker room, and I knew he had foot issues.
Right.
But again, there's a big difference between general soreness and needing to be on the injury report, but then missing 2 games. So that's why transparency matters. It's why the league pushes for that, and why we as journalists push for it on a daily basis. What exactly is going on here? And I think we've gotten away a little bit from it right now. But it's something that we should be on top of the whole time. The Kings tonight have a clean injury report. It's clean. The only 3 guys that are on there are Chima Moneki and Keon Ellis and Nemias Queta, who are with the Stockton Kings in Salt Lake City. That's it. And that's just not factual. The injury report should have Domantas Sabonis with the sore thumb, with a broken and avulsion fracture in his thumb. He's probable or he's going to play. He's available. But those things, it's still there. It's not like the injury healed. And so it's just really strange. The only difference between him and, say, Marvin Bagley is that Marvin Bagley is going to miss a month or more and may need surgery, or is probably going in for surgery on 2 fingers, where Sabonis doesn't have, or he's not going to miss time.
Shouldn't we all be on the injury report?
I certainly have been all season.
Well, you can put everyone on it. You can put those 5 starters on it and just put tired.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Somebody got a knee to the thigh yesterday. They're gonna play. They'll be out there, but I mean, that's an injury, right? If that's the case, we put anybody in there for anything. I think the way I look at the injury report is, if a guy is in serious consideration of not playing, that's how they should be on there. I think Domas isn't on there because he's not in consideration of not playing. He's gonna play.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but someone who doesn't cover the team or talk about the team on a daily basis will forget about that thumb, or has already forgotten about that thumb, and see Sabonis put up these big numbers, but then could watch a game and go, hey, why did he just drop that ball right out of bounds with his right hand? Oh, he must have bad hands. Oh, you're playing a new team each and every night, right?
Well,
and their fans don't know your players. And
they need to listen to D-Lo and KC, Kings Beat, and J Street Vibes, and then they'd be up to date on what's going on.
Yeah, there we go.
I agree. I believe that's what should happen. Send these to all of your media friends and all of our podcasts, our shows, and all of that stuff. To all of your media
Put them
friends.
on the mailing list.
This
The email.
is yeah. Kings are 20-16 right now. They're the 5th seed. I think Deuce had this on Twitter last night. Last year, the Kings won their 20th game like a month from now. It was like I think it was like February 5th or 6th. I think he said they were like 20-35.
Jeez.
That feels about right.
It's you said maybe they're scared of the number 5. They haven't been 5 games above 500 this season. They haven't been 5 games above 500 since 2006, and it feels like everything we're seeing with this team tracks back to 2006 in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to shake it until you shake it. Until you put it to rest and you end the streak, you're not going to be able to shake it. And that's why, again, I keep saying Sean Cunningham will tell you time and time again, the play-in is not the playoffs. The play-in is not the playoffs. This team, if they want to snap the streak, they need to get to the playoffs. And the easiest way to get to the playoffs is to be a 6 seed or above, because then you don't have to worry about the play-in, about one game against LeBron James or Steph Curry or one of these guys that a Damian Lillard that could go for 50 at any given moment. That's what we're talking about. Like, you got to figure out a way to get into the playoffs. And that's why I keep looking at this team and I'm thinking they're solid, but they need something. They need more. This team has shown you that sort of the cap of where they can be is probably a top 16 defensive team, but they're realistically probably a 20 to 24 rated defensive team in the league. It's not brain surgery here. You know they need more. So go to try to find it right now. Like, there's no reason to wait. We see what's missing. Like, go get the ingredient.
Yeah. I mean, but we went over that in detail.
I don't know what the ingredient is, though.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know if you have the money in the bank account to go get the ingredients. Have you been to the grocery store? Have you been to Damien's Nugget Market? You know, it's crazy.
It's not mine. I don't own it. It's just nearby.
You wish you owned it, because
I do.
That inflation.
Because apparently milk is like $7 now. Like, good God,
I saw like a 18 pack of eggs, like the regular store brand was like $8.99. I was like, how come the free range chicken ones are cheaper than those? I'll go get the healthy eggs. I guess. Like,
the healthy eggs.
What exactly is happening? What is happening?
I don't know.
But I say that, and I agree with you, Ham. I would love for them to solidify themselves. I just don't know. I don't know if that player's out there, and I don't know if they have enough to go get the player. Their best bet might be a little small move, and maybe that takes you a long way. You know, Mason Plumlee, like you talk about, or I don't know, just a random rotational guy. Maybe that puts everything into place, but I just don't. I don't know what the move would be, but I do feel like you said, they're one move away from kind of solidifying themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're looking at the teams that are around you that continue to struggle, there's no reason not to at least go out there and try to make it. Now, and I know, like, Monty McNair's out there being aggressive. He knows what's on the line here. I mean, he's got more on the line than any of us do. So, like, he gets it. It's just it takes 2 to tango, and it takes the right deal. And there is no one has set the market yet for what a player is going to cost in this season. And until that's set,
because Rudy Gobert sure as hell ain't it,
man.
Well, I mean, you can even say Rudy Gobert probably broke the market, like he did.
Oh, absolutely, he did. And now everyone's like, "What's the kid's name from?" Nelson from the Simpsons. Yeah. Now all the other NBA teams are looking at the Timberwolves like that.
Nelson wasn't as good as your Macho Man.
Well, I can even tell you too, like, it's a problem that you have dealing with Utah Jazz. Like, didn't they just pick up like 7 or 8 first-round picks? Like, what else do they need?
Yeah.
Like, do they need just more picks, I guess, is the question?
No, they probably, I mean, to your earlier point, and this isn't what we're advocating, they want Keegan Murray. They want the player, the Tyrese, the player that's already in the league to build off. Like,
Yeah, just
someone
like
that you have the I hate using this term, but the team controlled player
Mhm.
that
yes.
has a high upside that you can build off and start bringing in the young guys. Because as good as Indiana is right now, ultimately that's what they want to do. They
Yeah.
want to use draft picks to build around Tyrese for years to come, not specifically just this year.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're looking at their team, like they can really like Lauri Markkanen right now, but
Mhm.
the fact is he's 25 years old. He doesn't fit the age arc of what they're trying to do. And maybe they can rapid rebuild this thing because I know Danny
That's what
Ainge has
Danny
done that in the
does.
past.
Mm-hmm.
But like, is he one of those guys that you're going to build around? And I don't know. I don't know that that's the case. And a lot of people are right. Like, we're really high on him right now, but he hasn't been incredible for his first 5 years in the league. All of a sudden, he gets in the right situation. You know, we talk about Fox like hitting that perfect moment where like everything comes together, where he's the right age, where you know he's married, he's got a baby on the way, everything's kind of fitting into one like box for him, and like he's at the maturity level to take off. It's probably the same thing with Laurie, and he's just found the right spot, the right moment in his career. But like I was pining for this guy 2 years ago when the Kings still had their mid-level exception and he was sitting out there in August. Like, go get this guy. What are teams doing? I mean, even if it's for as an asset, go get him. And sure enough, you know, the Cavs first took advantage of it, and now Utah's going to do it too.
Mm. Yeah.
What do you
Laurie Bird.
What do you think these? You mentioned a minute ago, 3 wins in the last 4 games by a combined 4 points. If I got that right.
Yeah.
What do you think these clutch minutes and pulling out games like that mean for this team long term?
I think it means everything. It's about learning how to win
Mhm.
and learning how to win different ways, learning how to win when you can't make a bucket, learning how to win when Fox is great.
And last night, learning how to win when the 3 doesn't fall, because that I don't think has happened this year. Single digit threes, and they got the win.
Well, that, and I mean, you can look at this too. They lost a game a couple of nights before because they couldn't get an offensive rebound. Like, that's another way to lose. So do you put that in the back of your mind? How are we going to win in situations, you know? And each of these games brings something different out in a team and teaches you something new. And they learned in that situation, like, look, if we don't team rebound, we're going to lose more games.
Mhm.
This is going to be an issue. But in these situations, like also like if Fox misses one shot, they don't win that game.
Mm-hmm.
And you put a lot of pressure on a dude. What do you score 22 in the fourth quarter?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't expect excellence like that each and every night because there have been games this season where he couldn't do it. He couldn't get the shot to fall when it mattered, and you lost. So each of these are they're moments where you just kind of put it in your book of, you know, how are we going to trudge through an 82 game season and learn something each and every night. And I think you're learning more about this team all the time.
Yeah. And one of the guys that's kind of, I don't want to say bounce back because it wasn't like he was playing terrible, but we're starting to see the Kevon Herter that we saw earlier in the season. Is there something that that you've seen from him recently that's attributed to him playing better basketball? Or 16 last night, obviously he did what he did on Friday night. But he's starting to look more like himself. Is there something you see with his game that's getting back to I don't know if it's normal, but what we saw at the beginning of the season?
Yeah. I mean, you know, we've talked about this a little bit on the show. Like, I do believe the Kings have like a handful of players here that you're counting on to do things that they've never done before. And for Herter, for Monk, they're figuring out that in order for their team to win, they have to be consistent. So it's one thing for him to score 30 in a night, but he can't have 6-point nights or 1 for 13 nights. He can't have those nights because his team isn't strong enough from head to toe to like survive when, you know, X amount of players struggle.
Mhm.
And you know, if there's a rookie wall, I think Herter probably hit a bit of a veteran wall, and I think Monk has hit it as well, and is still trying to climb out of it. He's had a game or two where he's been good, but also like maybe 5 or 6 here over the last 10 that he has not been great.
Mhm.
And it's these guys are figuring out that it's one thing when you do this for a Hawks team that's up and down and all over the place, or not only your role where, Herter was playing 30 minutes tonight for the Hawks, but like your place in their world is very different. So it's much different when you're playing
It's
30.
Trae Young's world.
Yeah, when you're playing 30 minutes a night and you're only scoring 12 points, like we see Herter can roll out of bed and score 12 points. Like he doesn't even need to warm up to score 12 points. But when all of a sudden you're expected to score 15 to 18 points a night, it's just different, and it takes a different amount of energy, and they're asking him to defend at a different level. And I think that some of these guys have ran out of gas at certain points of the season, and then they come through it. It's just like the rookie wall. Like Keegan has shown that he's climbing out of the mess. But even still, you've seen games where he's struggling. What was it? It was Friday night against Utah. Man, Sabonis was yelling at Keegan Murray half the game. Like he was yelling at him the whole time. He was not happy with his energy level. He was not happy with how hard he was cutting. He was not happy with him not getting into the rotation early enough. You saw him like pulling him aside and giving him an earful. And these are moments where young players have to learn, but also guys who haven't been there, guys who don't know what this means. It's tough.
I hit a wall on Wednesdays. Like it happens. We've all been through that. And sometimes we look at basketball players or athletes as if it's different. Like it's a fun, very high paying job. These guys go through a lot to get ready for every game. And it's not just the 48 minutes on the floor. It's the 50 things that they go through to get ready for those 40 minutes. And when you have 3 of those, 4 of those a week, when you have 2 of them on consecutive nights, it's tough. And as those days, those nights, those weeks start to pile up, yeah, you get stretches where Malik isn't playing well. You get stretches where Kevin Huerter isn't playing well. And you hope that they can shake out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Monk apologized for his play last week and then came out and had like an incredible game, right? But then he came back with, maybe 1 or 2 games that weren't nearly as good. Like finding that consistency is really hard. And Mike Brown loves to practice. This team practices more than any team I've seen ever in Sacramento. Their shoot-arounds are a good 40 minutes longer than any team I've ever covered in Sacramento. There is a lot of expenditure that goes on. And I'll add this too. When you have practices like this all the time, that means you have media sessions all the time. Because if you have a practice, you have to have a media session. It's the rules. And so these guys they're a bit tattered at times. They're a bit worn out from the whole process. And it's not just going in and playing basketball, but it's also coming in during the month of December and being at home. And, the Sabonis fly in, the Murrays flew in, Matthew Dellavedova's parents were in the building. Like you have all of these other commitments, your real life people who have all these things that are happening, and you're expected to maintain at a level up here, but you have so many things happen. Just think how exhausted all of us are from the Christmas holiday season. And we're not playing basketball every night. We might be working, we might be doing what we do, but
in front of 17,000 people.
Yeah.
Who know exactly what I should be doing at my job
and are screaming and yelling at you the entire time, and demanding that you light a magical beam outside.
Yes, it is magical. It is magical. The moon gravitated to the beam last night. It's so magical.
The other thing about all this as well is averages are averages for a reason, right? So just because Keegan or Kevin or Malik go for 25, one night, they average, I'm just throwing a number out there, 13 points a game for their career for a reason. It doesn't mean that they're always going to score 13 or they can never score more than 13. It just means that, Malik is going to have his 30-point games and then he's going to have his 8-point games. And when you bring it all together, that comes to like 14 points a game. And I think because, we go through this grind so much day in and day out, and we live and die with these games, we forget that these guys are doing what they've done. And, they get to that average, one way or another, whether it's rarely is it ever by scoring 14 straight, points a game straight through the season. There's going to be with highs and lows, hot and cold times and things of that nature. And I think that sometimes we forget, like, that's why they average what they average.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the only guy who is completely consistent on this team is Sabonis.
Mhm.
And that guy just like throws on a backpack that has 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists in it
Crazy.
every single night. And it's remarkable. Absolutely remarkable to watch. And like I had the joy of covering DeMarcus Cousins for 6.5 years of his career. Watching him do some of the things on the court that he did were so stunning. Like there's never been a big man who moved like that, or at least at that time, there had never been a big man who moved like that, who handled the ball, who did spin moves at half court, did all of these things at that size. And I'll tell you right now, after watching Sabonis for a year, I'm starting to feel like he's the best player I've ever covered. And it's because not only is he so consistently great, but what he does for his teammates is something that DeMarcus was never able to do. It was either DeMarcus backpacked you and got you a win, or you lost, or even he would have a big game and you still lost.
Mhm.
With Sabonis, it's something different. He just has this ability to make everyone around him better. He's a very special player, and that's why I fully believe he is a top 10 player in the league right now. He's just remarkable what he's doing each and every night.
Agree. And Uriah Faber is remarkable. He's a UFC Hall of Famer. He's hosting Night of Champions on January 13th at Hard Rock Live. We've got tickets for you, a pair of tickets for you right now. Caller number 3, 916-909-1320. We'll get you all set up. Again, a pair of tickets for Uriah Faber's Night of Champions on January 13th at Hard Rock Live. We'll come back. We'll talk more about the Sacramento Kings. James, I want to talk a little bit about the defensive effort from KZ Okpala, getting the defensive player of the game last night, as well as Davion Mitchell, the menace to society, Old Dog, and, of course, about tonight's game versus Atlanta at the Golden One Center. That's all coming up here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. Excellent.
I didn't look at the last 2-minute report.
We did. In-depthly. They said they ruled the Markkanen foul correctly.
They're wrong.
We put the clip on in slow motion and cannot find any, because they say Keegan hit his elbow.
Garbage.
It does not happen.
No.
At all.
Yeah, that's like when you're 10 years old and run alongside your buddy and you flick your leg
kicks his
up
ass.
And
That's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous, man.
Yeah, that's to me, that's embarrassing. Just admit it. Admit that you made a mistake. It is what it is.
Yeah. They called the only thing they noted was the jump ball was wrong.
Oh yeah, incorrect.
Which everyone knew.
And that wasn't the only one, right? There was another play that was.
There was the Clarkson one, which they said was correct. The Clarkson KZ Okpala play.
Oh.
Yeah, they said that was correct too.
I remember someone going over the back of Sabonis too, and then
that happens every play.
Yeah. Well.
Wild times.
I'm glad I'm not forced to write on that every day like I was in the past.
Click, clack, click.
Somebody got them noisy shoes on.
Mm-hmm. It's like Kenny buying it. Give me the noisiest pair of shoes you got.
We're back at it. We're back at it.
They need to put some rugs down.
Oh, no. Did I take it off? No, there's no way I did. No.
What happened? Oh, you're looking for the soundbite.
I guess I took it off.
In his last 8 games, Fox has had 10-plus fourth quarters 6 times. In that span, he ranks first in total fourth quarter points with 96, second in total clutch points with 29. This season, Fox ranks 8th in total fourth quarter points with 222 and 3rd in total clutch points with 84.
He is.
That boy good.
He is lights out late in games.
Yeah.
Lights out.
Hit the thumbs up while you're here. We're already past 200. We should, man, we're cooking in here today. We should be able to get to Should be able to get to 300 pretty easily. So if you haven't hit the thumbs up yet, man, please do. Please
Look
do.
at the 3.
It's one of my favorite hoodies, to be honest. D'Lo and KC-ish.
Reese got that one for Christmas.
I've told
right
you guys,
on Santa.
The Jazz beat writers are some of the best people in the league, and they're super fun to hang out with. They're incredibly tight as a group, and they help each other out. Like, it's one of the few groups that, even though they work for different newspapers and different like platforms, they all like transcribe quotes together. They share everything. They're super nice people. They're all over Rudy Gay as not being an NBA player anymore.
Oh man, yeah.
Like,
I was watching him last night. Like,
yeah, they were like, why is he playing minutes?
he doesn't look good at all.
Yeah,
He looks like he's ready for retirement.
yep. He's a good dude though.
He's a great dude.
That was one of the worst nights ever watching him pop his Achilles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seen a couple of major injuries. The Vince Carter foul on who's a dude that used to be for the Warriors.
McCaw.
Oh yeah, Patrick McCaw. Oh, that was
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, Rudy's 36. That's all right.
Hey man, he's had a good career.
Yeah, it's okay.
He's made a lot of money. He has not played a lot of playoff games, but he's one of my favorites to cover ever.
Soren, I don't think Rashawn is hard to watch, but I do think he was tough to watch last night. I think he struggled last night. I think he struggled particularly when he got the call to go in. I don't think he's been bad in his minutes, though.
I've been battling with the good people of Portugal about the Nemia situation. Like, no,
They just don't understand, James. You got to break it down for them.
I try, but then they like come back at me like, well, this and this, and like, come on, man.
I love how James is the middleman between like the Kings and Portugal now.
I am. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to explain like the basics of it. It's really harsh.
James got all of Portugal against them. Even Tisha Penicheiro is going to show up and crack him with a steel chair.
You know what? They're following me on Twitter, so it's okay. They just keep coming. Yeah.
Those follows, baby.
I am Switzerland. Me and Rudy Gay, Soren, we're both Switzerland. Rudy Gay was always Switzerland in the Kings locker room. Sat in the middle, got along with everybody. Brokered peace between this group and this group.
Was Rudy here for Drake? Does that timeline match up?
Yes, he was there. He was sitting in the corner with Rondo and Cousins in one of a group of 3.
That's the first time.
It's okay to hang him up after a good career. There's a couple of guys we saw last night who's like, hey, it might be time. Might be time. Well, one.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to soften. I would have liked Lauri Markkanen to retire anytime he plays the Kings. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that would help.
He can go ahead and Lauri Markkanen can go straight to hell.
Man, do this against everybody else. How about that?
Yeah, he was cooking the last couple of times they played the Kings.
Real quick, James, what's your knowledge of the rule? I always thought at 0.3 it had to be a tip in. 0.4 you could catch and shoot. De'Aaron last night was saying 0.4 had to be a tip in. I thought what Lauri did, if he could have got it off in time, was legal.
That's a good question. I could have sworn that if it's under 0.4, that it can't be a catch and shoot.
Right.
But they were pretty convinced that it was 0.4. He was pretty convinced. I know some other people on social media were pretty convinced. I'll also say this, like the way that play like happened. And so you've got Fox, he goes to the basket, he beats Lauri. He sees a double team coming from Vanderbilt, right? And then he runs right away from it. Then he goes up with his right hand as opposed to his left to get to the basket quicker, which I thought was brilliant by him. Because normally if he would have gone with his left, he very well could have been blocked on that. And if he would have gone for the dunk, it would have also been an issue. But I watched when he went and like put the ball up on the glass. There was 2 seconds left. The ball hits the glass, hits the front rim, hits the side rim, hits the other side rim, slowly falls through. And by the time it got through, it was 0.4 left. And just remarkable how much time the ball took to actually.
And that's the way De'Aaron planned it, because he knew if it went through the net, if it went straight through the net, they would have had a chance to lose.
That's why he's in God mode right now.
That's right. That's the type of fourth quarter he had. He's like, I'm gonna make this ball sit in the air.
It was Michael Jordan and Larry Bird, right? The McDonald's commercials.
That's it.
Off the ceiling, off the roof, off the floor, nothing but net.
The only type of field goal which may be scored if the game clock and shot clock are at 0.2 is a tip-in or a high lob. So I always remember it being under 0.4, but it actually looks like it's 0.3 and under. That it has to be a tip-in or a lob. Now there's, we could dig all through this rule book. It was 0.4. I was confused by De'Aaron's post-game remarks because he kept referencing Derek Fisher.
Yeah, he blamed Derek Fisher.
And it was like, Derek Fisher's shot counted. Like I'm confused.
Well,
like
they changed the rule after. That's why he's saying that. They changed the rule after that. You can't have a catch and shoot from this point because you're talking
I
about
think that they
error.
so catch and shoot aren't no, I guess I'm just confused. Not De'Aaron. Derek caught the ball. He didn't turn, did he?
It was pretty much all in one motion, kind of.
He brought up, but there was no way it took less than that amount of time. Like, again, and the rules have changed greatly, like their ability to go back and look at those shots. The other thing was, I didn't even look. Did Utah not have a timeout?
No.
Okay. Yeah, because Utah immediately throws that haymaker, which was like a heck of a pass.
It actually, it took a minute, and Sabonis caught it because they were kind of like on De'Aaron, and Sabonis caught. Hey, like clearly they didn't have a timeout because they were kind of like looking around, and then the Kings ran back forward because they realized, oh, Utah doesn't have a timeout. We have defense to play. And by the time Sabonis went back kind of towards the baseline, the ball was in the air on its way towards.
That was a dime by Vanderbilt. Like he dropped that in a bucket.
Yeah, it was a hell of a. Who threw that pass?
Vanderbilt threw that.
Yeah. And I think Keegan was defending. It kind of reminds me of the was it De'Aaron Fox full length to Harrison Barnes for the catch and shoot, which was crazy.
Yeah.
The empty arena buzzer beater against Cleveland, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
we were empty arena.
Only one I know who was it. Morgan. I think that was Morgan and
Silicaz. That's all.
Krista Plunk were there.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Katie, I think Katie was on the call with Krista, maybe.
Oh, it's the all-female non-binary night.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was there for that.
Yeah. And what?
Well, I was in the building. I wasn't up on the set. No.
I don't.
No, I was in the building for that.
Okay.
We were allowed in the building.
Reporters were there the whole year.
Oh, okay. Just no fans.
No.
Yeah,
there were no fans there.
No fans.
I spent the whole season up until the last 6 games of the year.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
In the arena,
everyone was spread out.
Yeah.
Like everyone was just spread out, like super far from each other. I never went. We never. Did you go to any of those?
Oh no, I don't think you could.
No, we could. We just didn't. Like
it would have to be like
the protocol
was a super process for us to get there.
Yeah, and it was just like we don't
what?
need to be there, so we're just not going to burden that staff with trying to make room for us. Like just to say we went to one, it's literally the same exact experience at home. Like we don't need to go.
That was
I forgot reporters weren't allowed in.
That was a good game, and Katie was on the call and went nuts when he hit the shot. Yeah, I mean the whole entire night was,
and it was the strangest celebration in history. I think Harrison just turned around like, well, I just hit a half court shot with no one to cheer, so I'm just gonna walk back to the locker room and take a shower.
It was really tough because we during that entire season, we all were spaced out. We were like 6 or 8 feet apart. So you had to yell at the person down the row from you. And
which could
like,
probably be heard on the court.
you could hear us. You could hear us everywhere. Like there wasn't enough people in the building at all. Shout out to Kat, who took care of us. She was the Kings employee that had all of our meals ready for us every night and took care of us. And that was just a really strange stretch. But also say we all pulled together as a group. We all like worked together to make sure that we were getting our vaccines when they became available, because if not, we couldn't be in the building. And so when appointments came up, we were sending out like text threads like, hey, there's 6 appointments here, go get your shot. So we're all good and in the building. It was an interesting time. We became closer. The whole group, we became closer.
You know how I remember vividly that the reporters were able to be there all year is because we did have access to the Zoom link for the press conference, and everybody would be sitting at their little table or, miles away from somebody else getting ready to ask their question when I would get in there and watch the press conferences.
And it would be like, Tony, mute your computer. Mute it. Like we all hear it. We're all echoing. God bless Tony. Or send a text like, hey, your mic. How many times I've texted even Jason Anderson, man, your mic is hot. Like, mic, hot mic.
Keep it
hot
clean,
mic.
pal. Keep
or
clean.
if they're like, talking to someone behind them or whatever, or someone comes in the room and starts yapping.
I've been on Zoom. So we weren't at the arena, but we were all on a Zoom where someone was taking a particularly long time, and the conversation with the media members just got spicy. Set in on a couple of those where some media members were looking for other media members. It's like, oh boy, I'm just gonna sit here and take this all in. This is good stuff. It's off the record with the Sacramento Kings beat writers.
Well, again, we are a tight group. I mean, whether we all love
all
each
of
other
us.
or not. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We have our moments too where, we don't all get along. Yeah.
I specifically remember Jason Jones being on the call. So Jason was probably the instigator of the whole thing. Like,
Jason is the type that'll start it and then walk away.
And then leave.
Yeah.
Oh man.
We had a moment one night with him where he lost his mind, and we had to hold him back in the media room.
I can't imagine that. Like I
was a
can't.
moment I realized that dude played high-level high school football as an offensive lineman.
Damn.
He threw me and Sean Cunningham around, who were trying to cool him down. He threw us around like a couple of rag dolls. Like, just
Jason strikes me so much like Kenny, a guy who's just, you're not gonna rattle him. Like he
got rattled one night. Me and him have yelled at each other across the room once or twice, like in the good old days. We had some like witty banter going back and forth. It may have got out of control. But that night was like one of those nights where, like,
well, he wasn't hot at you.
Oh no. No. I won't divulge what happened, but yeah, it was an evening for sure. And it did not end in like 2 minutes. It like we had multiple like rile ups of the same situation. It was
I can't see it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And that dude is strong as a bull and threw us around all over the place. Like we were falling in the chairs.
I'm picturing this. This is hilarious.
Hold on for dear life.
This is tremendous.
Calm down, buddy. Calm down.
This is so the Sacramento Kings, they're not playing in front of an empty arena anymore. 17,000+. Hopefully, if you're traveling to the game, I don't know. I can still see the sun from the studio, but James says it's pretty windy out. If the
ground is dry over here,
drive careful. Drive careful. Christina Warner induced panic. Damn it. Drive safe. Heading into the game, drive safe. Leaving the game, but it's the Atlanta Hawks who, James, like Utah, is struggling entering this game. Utah had lost 4 in a row, 4 competitive games, but it lost 4 in a row. the Atlanta Hawks, coming off of that, a brutal overtime loss against Golden State the other night, they're coming off 4 losses as well. They're heading into this game with 4 losses as well. And it was a game where Sacramento just never found its legs the first time they played in Atlanta, again on the second night of a back-to-back. Is it stop Trae Young and figure everything else out along the way, or what's the key for Sacramento tonight?
Yeah, I mean, they're a dangerous team. Onyeka Okongwu has really stepped up and played well for them, but he's not a player that I think this Sabonis will fear at all. I think that's going to be a good matchup. I think Fox and Trae is usually a good matchup. DeJounte Murray is intriguing. Bogey off the bench. Although, all these guys played huge minutes the other night. And
so I'm not okay. Is Bogey playing well?
he had 21 the other night in 43 minutes.
I've seen him have some moments this year. He's doing okay.
The only time I really saw him play was the other night. Because I watched firstly that not the entire game. I watched pretty much the whole second half.
Yeah, I watched
overtime. The Lakers. I saw that Lakers game the other day. He was hitting some shots.
Yeah. I hope that he rounds into shape, just like the knee issues have slowed him down. I mean, he's shooting well from the field, but he's only played 14 games on the season. He's averaging 17.6 a game though. Yeah. He's a nice third guard to have. And, I know that's one of the reasons why they were willing to move off a Herder.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd hope that while they're in town, maybe the Kings can have conversations with them about different ways to adjust the trade from the Herder deal, so they could potentially free up their draft picks.
What's that look like? You've brought that up a couple of times. Is that legitimate? Would that be a brand new trade?
No, you can adjust the I don't, what are they? The restrictions on a trade, on a draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
So sure, it could be a different trade where the Kings send someone their way, or maybe if you wanted to go. So what is it? It's I think it's top 14 protected in 2024. It's top 12 protected in 2025. It's top 10 protected in 2026. If it's not relayed by 2026, it becomes 2 second-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in a perfect world, the Kings wouldn't need their first round picks, and they only lose one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So once they give up one pick, then you get your other picks back. But the problem is today, as we sit, they can't trade their 23 because you could lose your 24. You can't trade your 25, your 26, or your 27. So the first pick you have that you can actually trade is a 28. So yeah, I mean the Kings could negotiate, could try to figure something out. They could take like the lottery protections off completely and just give them an unprotected 2024 pick. But in that case, the Kings would want something more from Atlanta. And so, yeah, I mean, it's, to quote the great David Stern, life is a negotiation. There's always ways you can do it, but the Kings could actually potentially use those picks and considerably improve their roster over the coming weeks. You don't want to kill your entire future, but if you have things that are, working, if you have guys if you are keeping a guy like Keegan Murray around for long term and he's going to develop and be a better player than he is today, then that may make it easier when you look at your contractual obligations with Fox and with Sabonis. Hopefully you're able to tie up Sabonis and stuff like that.
David Stern sounded like Kyle Shanahan. Life is a negotiation. We may not be here Sunday. I mean, it's crazy. But what I got out of that is that the picks and the trades with Atlanta, until it actually has to be conveyed, it could always kind of be reframed, right? Like it's kind of it could be reframed at the draft this year or whenever, as long as Atlanta's willing to do it, right?
Yeah, as long as both groups are willing to have the conversation and sit down and do it. Now, Atlanta could be perfectly comfortable with that pick and the way that it is. I mean, basically, I know this sounds strange, but you're wiping out a team that seems to be competing for half the players that you want to compete with to go get, like, all the time. How many times have we heard the Kings matched with Atlanta or competing to get a player that Atlanta's also, likes. So, I mean, that's one thing. You basically wipe out another team's draft picks, but you could hold the Kings, if the Kings have a big deal that they could figure out right now that, required them to have a 26 or a 25 draft pick. I think Atlanta would be willing to listen, especially if you could take a bunch of restrictions off.
Well, it's probably, I mean, I think maybe it's worth pointing out that was Wes Wilcox's former home, right?
I don't know how many people are left from that era though, because he had been with like NBA TV for a couple of years,
and they've had some turnover recently.
Yeah, Travis Schlenk moved up or out, and Landry Fields took over the Hawks. So as far as the GM position, I think it's an interesting. That's a team that you could go back to again and have more discussions with. There are players that would work for both teams in certain situations, but like the John Collins situation, I think that's kind of sailed at this point.
I'm okay with that. I don't know. I'm of course John Collins is going to go for 40 tonight. Give us the old Julius Randle treatment. Like every time Kings fans talking about Julius Randle, he goes for 39.
There's Knicks fans too that are out here. I don't know if you saw the tweet floating around, but they're saying Randle's untradeable right now. He's balling. All those people Julius Randle.
Well, I'm looking at the standings. They're in the 8th spot right now at 20 and 18. The New York Knicks are, and right below them is the Atlanta Hawks, who they're 17 and 20. And as we mentioned, they've lost 4 in a row. And James, you mentioned that Sacramento and Atlanta always seem to be tied together one way or another when rumors get started. Atlanta desperately needs to retool their roster. I don't think Sacramento needs to retool their roster. They may want to add to their roster, improve their roster. I think Atlanta, they've got some fixing they got to do, because I think part of their issue is they overachieved quickly, and I think that set an unrealistic bar for what this team is. This team played way over their head that year they made the playoffs and got, I think, to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's not what this team is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can say the same thing, sort of like the Denver Nuggets. They played way over their head during the bubble and made it to the Western Conference Finals, and then all of a sudden they're struggling to get back to like what it is. Maybe they are now back to where they are, where Atlanta has kind of faded hard. And I'd say the other thing, they have turmoil. Like Nate McMillan is not connecting with his players. There's been some conversations about him potentially stepping away. Maybe he's not. I don't want to say that he's not connecting well with his players. He might not be connecting with one of his players well. And
that one's pretty important.
Yeah, he's pretty important. But, at the same time, like how many coaches you go through, you want to be a winner. Sometimes you got to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I'm always hesitant to agree with Kenny. I'm starting to really look at the bubble sideways.
Well,
it's like there's just so much that happened that year where it was like,
looking funny in the light.
Look at how much it impacted the Kings.
Oh yeah, it was massive, no doubt.
Everything for the Sacramento Kings.
Hey, can't erase what they were, but I'm just saying that bubble, it was different. It was different. Hey, before we get out of here though, Damian, at Christina's call. Okay, Damian Barling and IMK Diddy, don't question the forecast. It will be messy. Be safe on the roads to the game. All right, she smoked. We asked for her. She smoked.
All right, if she's still adamant about that forecast, we'll remind you. If you're going to the game tonight, be safe. Is it what's do you know the official number? Is it 7 straight sellouts?
8
straight
sellouts. With the largest crowd was 17,985.
And that number was set like 3 games in a row. Like it kept changing, like it kept going up like 3 games in a row.
Yeah, but then the last game wasn't quite as many. I mean, it was still a full sellout. The crowd has been incredible.
Yeah.
Like truly
we've got a minute. The Kevin Huerter 3 Friday night.
Incredible.
I watched Brendan's video and Cam's video 1,000 times. Like it's just to see the crowd reaction, like that has to be one of the best Golden One Center moments so far.
Yeah, it's top 5 for sure. I mean, just absolutely incredible. But like when you fill that building up, and these fans are engaged. I mean, when you have a couple hundred standing room only tickets being sold, that's when you know that you're on to something.
Yeah.
Christina Warner has spoken. She said, be safe tonight. And so she is the authority when it comes to all things weather. So if you're headed out to the game tonight, we already know the wind is blowing pretty strong. James told us that when he's going in. Once you start, or when he came in, once you start incorporating the rain, it's going to get even a little rockier. So heading in might be okay. Be safe. Leaving could be substantially more difficult. So again, just be safe. We want you all back here tomorrow. Make sure you're following James on social media. Make sure you check out the Kings Beat YouTube channel, the Kings Beat podcast. Make sure you head over to thekingsbeat.com. Follow us at D'Lo and KC on Instagram and Twitter, at ESPN 1320 on Instagram and